Hey guys, Drifter here. Welcome to Fortnite In Depth. In today's episode, we're going to be reviewing the brand new dual pistols that were just added to the game because I believe that they were added by Epic Games to be a counter for double pumping. Yes, you heard me correct. I believe that these are an actual counter, or at least an alternative to double pump users because they are incredibly strong. I could be wrong, I could be mistaken, but just judge after you've seen the stats. Let's talk about the damage first. If you're getting body shots with the dual pistols, the purple ones will deal 41 damage per shot, and the gold ones will deal 43 damage per shot. This is incredibly high for a pistol. It does use medium bullets, so that makes sense instead of the light ammo, but for comparison, a suppressed pistol will deal 28 damage, a SCAR rifle only deals 35, the dual-wield pistols can deal up to 43 damage per shot, and a revolver is 54. So you can see the damage on these guys kind of sit very comfortably between the SCAR and the revolver, which is incredibly high. They deal double damage headshots, so a purple one will deal 82 damage to the head, or 86 to the head for a gold one. Like most of the weapons, they do have a damage drop-off, so they can drop off down to 31 damage at longer ranges, but generally speaking, you won't be getting hits at those ranges. You should expect to be dealing damage of around 40 per shot and around 80 per shot at any range that you get a hit with the dual pistols. They do have a unique firing mechanism in that each time you click or as you hold down the mouse or trigger, they fire twice. So you click once or you pull the trigger once and each pistol will fire once independently of each other, just slightly offset. So if you pull the trigger once and both of those hit a person in the head and you get 2 insta headshots, that can deal 192 damage, which is more than the gold heavy shotgun. That's more in line with how the blue pump used to be before it got nerfed. That is an incredible amount of damage that it puts out very, very quickly, and I have some very unique things to talk about the rates of fire in a little bit, but I just want to stress to you that these are extremely high damage weapons, and you should fear these pistols. When you hear somebody popping off with these guys, you shouldn't think, oh great, here's an idiot using pistols, let me kill them so that I can play with the new weapon. Instead, you should think, I need to approach this guy cautiously because he might nuke my health in an instant. We're going to load up our no-skin warrior here as a targeting dummy. If you pick up any set of dual pistols early game and you come across somebody that has no armor, shield whatsoever, it can kill in 2 headshots or 3 shots to the body. So that can be 1 trigger pull if you're hitting headshots or a headshot, or 2 trigger pulls to the body. If you're going more for a mid-game enemy that has 50 shield, that's still 2 headshots will drop them almost instantly, or 4 shots to the body, and considering they shoot consecutively, that can be 2 clicks or 2 trigger pulls before the enemy dies, which in my opinion is very oppressive. And finally, any dual pistols that you pick up and come across an enemy that has a full 200 health, which is 100 shield and 100 health respectively, will kill in 3 headshots or 6 body shots. That's approximately 1/3 of your magazine and body shots to kill somebody, or 1.5 trigger pulls to the head. You don't even have to be that accurate before they drop. But that is very, very, very high damage. But that's not the crazy thing about these weapons. The crazy thing, in my opinion, is the rate of fire. The dual pistols rate of fire for what we will call the burst of them, because if you pull the trigger once, it's going to shoot doo-doo very fast, doo-doo, side by side. That is 1,200 rounds per minute, which is an order of magnitude higher than most guns in Fortnite. Even the minigun is only shooting around 400 or 500 RPM. That's faster than the minigun. That's faster than that's more than twice as fast the tactical submachine guns. That's almost twice as fast as the burst on the burst rifle. That's just out of this world incredibly fast. And the delay between these bursts is about 450 milliseconds, or just a little bit less than half of a second. But that initial burst is so ludicrously fast that makes it the new highest damage per second in the game. If you're looking for a maximum DPS weapon or a maximum DPS output, that's going to be the dual pistols. Dual pistols' overall rate of fire is 240 rounds per minute. When you factor in the burst delay between the shots and how it kind of cycles through, it goes back down to being just a little bit lower than that of a normal assault rifle, but that's probably not how you're going to use them. You're probably rarely going to hold them down. You're probably going to click or pull the trigger once every time you see a head and go for headshots. So the DPS of the first 2 shots is 860, which is mind-blowingly high. That is so high, that's more than twice as high as the nearest competitor. The overall DPS is about 170, which is more average for weapons in this game. The tiers on these two weapons being gold and purple, or legendary epic, they do have very minor changes in bloom. The gold ones have a smidgen less bloom, like 5%. They have a little bit less recoil, because these guns do have recoil. It has a little bit more damage, and it'll reload a little bit faster, but overall there's not a significant change between the tiers. There's not really a reason to upgrade them. Definitely don't go out of your way to die to change tiers. It's not worth risking even a little bit of shield. The dual pistol reload times are 2.8 seconds for the purple one, and if you just happen to have gold akimbo pistols, that's going to be 2.7 seconds, so a little bit faster, but overall kind of slow. It's more in line with the burst rifles, which reload slowly, which would make sense given that you've got one hand tied up and you have to fumble with magazines, and reloading two pistols in real life is a slow process, trust me, I know. So that makes sense, and you can't put one shell at a time in like shotguns. Unfortunately, I was not able to test the structure damage with these weapons, so I can't give you a certain verifiable number on how much damage they do to structures, but I will tell you that it seems very high. I was able to shred structures very quickly in my gameplay. I didn't have any problems with it. All the people I talked to didn't have any problems with it. There were people busting my bases with dual pistols. Probably not as good as a rifle or a minigun or an LMG or, grenades or something, but it will definitely get the job done if you need to, and it does a much better job than shotguns now that they've been nerfed. The akimbo pistols, or dual pistols I should say, do have a few other unique attributes. One is that they don't have any first shots accuracy. Sitting perfectly still and waiting will not allow you to get the perfect first shots accuracy that most of the other weapons of this type have, like the other pistols or like the submachine guns, which you probably would most directly compare them to, but they do have a very tight hipfire box. The hipfire box on these is probably tighter than that of the tactical submachine gun, and even when you're jumping, even when you're firing as fast as you possibly can and moving around, the hipfire box doesn't get too wide. At no point does it get unmanageable or difficult to use. You really can just run around and just John Woo these things. I did say John Woo instead of John Wick. John Woo was doing that 25 years before John Wick, but hey, it's still impressive all the same. The actual recoil on the pistols is higher than most guns and very irregular. The first time you pull the trigger, you will notice that the little dot in the center of your hipfire box will kick up, and it'll kick up again a second time, and then it'll slowly recenter over that half second to being close to normal before your second rounds shoot, but or second cycle, I should say, shoots, but it'll still be a little bit higher. And because you have the very fast, herky-jerky, higher than average recoil and then slower than average recentering, they're going to have a very unusual feel. They won't feel accurate. It'll feel like you're fighting them sometimes, and I think that is done to kind of keep them from being completely broken in terms of power scaling. I think that these pistols are very strong at medium range, and they're surprisingly usable at long range too. If you had nothing but perhaps a gray burst, I might tell you it might be better for your time and money to just go ahead and use the akimbo pistols instead of using the gray burst. It's dependable. It depends on exactly how the enemies are positioning, and yeah, the rifles get first shot accuracy, but don't think you can't use these at long ranges. You can definitely use them at any range. You can use the heavy shotgun, and maybe another half again longer than that. However, we really know the dual pistols are monsters up close, and I think that they can compete with shotguns if you're good enough. They're not nearly as easy to use as shotguns, and I know shotguns in Fortnite have a tendency to be unpredictable, have a tendency to be fluky, and sometimes you get huge high damage headshots and sometimes you get 7. The pistols are perhaps not as fluky, but I do believe they take a higher degree of skill to use because the hipfire box is tighter and there is a little offset between the shots, and you do have to track the head a little bit better than you do for most shotguns. I think that shotguns will still likely be the better choice for most players based on their ability to aim and their just overall comfort with the game. However, I think a high-skilled player can use dual pistols instead of double pumping. If you think about it, when you double pump, what you're doing is shooting one shotgun and then very quickly swapping to the second one to get a shot out in those close quarters combats that's so important here in Fortnite. It just gives you 2 very fast, high damage shots. Well, dual pistols will shoot faster than double pumping for the first 2 shots, albeit the damage is lower. The potential damage is about 80 per shot, or roughly 160 if you want to think about it, which is kind of like a shotgun headshot. And the second set of shots will come perhaps slightly slower, if not very similar in speed, to a double pump. And you can run these without taking up 2 shotguns in your inventory and without having to micromanage the switching or however it is you do it on console or PC or mobile. So double pumping is annoying, it's frustrating. Almost everybody's doing it at this point, or at least pump tack or heavy tack. Everybody's got a backup shotgun to kind of spam you down with, and I think that it's bad for the overall meta of the game. It causes people to have less room in their inventory slot, and it makes close quarters combat really brutal for anybody that doesn't want to carry two shotguns. However, with the akimbo pistols, you could, in theory, carry no shotguns at all. That would be fine. And you could just go for the two headshots over and over and over again. And in theory, it should work just as well as a double pump, but save you slots in your inventory. It may not have quite the same true instant one-frame click and dead headshot potential, but the overall DPS is higher than shotguns, and the we'll say nearly instant DPS is very competitive with shotguns. So I think a good player could get a lot of work out of these little pistols. And I'm not sure if I'm good enough for this. I'm not sure if I'm man enough for this task, so to speak. But in my future games, I'm going to try to use these instead of two shotguns. I'm more of a heavy tack. I like having a heavy and then a blue tack, or a pump and a blue tack, when I can get the pump, when I can get the heavy, that is. But in future games, I'm going to try to put the work in, and I'm going to try to get good with dual pistols, and I'm going to see if these can be a true double pump counter. Guys, that's all for this episode of In Depth. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something useful. If you did, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Drifter out.